Carlos Ferrero.
So about 2 3/4 hours late, we begin with Ferrero set.
Net for serve.
Should have started at 11:30 today, now 2:15 local time.
Zero 15.
Just missing the baseline. It'll be a sort of anxious start for both here. I think they're both still feeling their way as match players, seeking that vital commodity which no one can buy, everyone we give a fortune for: confidence. Ferrero, who was saying the other day that whereas before, when his ranking was in the top 10, he was of course seeded and not meeting great players until the 3rd or 4th round of a tournament. Now he's meeting them in the 1st round, and he said it's very difficult. Called out, I think, but overruled by Cedric Mourier. So it is 1-love, a break of serve for Coria.
Well, a fantastic start from the Argentine. And I'm sure he'll be delighted with the way he was striking the ball in that opening game. It's not going to be easy for either player because, of course, they've been here a number of hours now. They already warmed up on the other court. Very different circumstances here. Both will want to start the match well, try and build up that little bit of confidence. Conditions today very different to those the players played in yesterday. It was nice and warm, of course. The ball was traveling through the air quickly yesterday, but today it's cold, it's damp, and so both players will be wanting to get used to those conditions and start to feel like they're timing the ball well as early as possible in the match.
There is Antonio. Mr. Martinez, who's always in Ferrero's corner, has been since 1989. And Samuel Lopez sometimes helps Ferrero as well. He's got a fitness trainer as well, Miguel Maiso. So he's got a team Ferrero.
Kansas 0.
Wonder when he's going to lose a point. Oh, he's lost a point.
I think you could hear the collective groan of Coria fans around the world once you'd stated that fact.
Yes, he has a lot of fans. But, I mean, his whole game is based on consistency, and watching him yesterday against Ferrer starting so badly, it's clear that he was struggling for confidence on a court he didn't want to be playing on, which is one of the reasons, I think, why the players delayed that attempted start on court 2 today.
Well, they're both absolutely delighted, I think, to be out on court central. Familiar surroundings for both. That's an area of Coria's game that he looked to improve through much of 2004, trying to end the points a little quicker by primarily using the first serve to set the point up, and then for the vast majority of the time the forehand, especially when the opponents drop the ball ever so slightly short.
That's typical of the man.
Well, Coria used to be king of clay until his loss in the final of the French Open last year, but he's still king of the drop shot. He plays it at exactly the right time when he's well inside his own baseline, and 9 times out of 10 he'll play that forehand inside out when the opponent's expecting a very aggressive ground stroke.
I'll tell Mr. Portas what you said. The drop shot dragon, who used to think of himself as the king of the drop shots.
His time has come and gone.
And that rather typical of this man. His big forehand was his main weapon of destruction. He would hit winners from all over the court.
Especially after that big first serve as well, because it gives him an awful lot of options. Can go into the space with the first ground stroke of the rally, or as he did then, back behind the opponent.
Best of 3 tiebreak sets this semi-final. Very different from the French Open, where Coria last year really ran out of gas and got cramp in the final against Gaudio.
Had it been the best of 3, it would have been absolutely fine. Deft touch from Ferrero at the net. Coria scrambling all over the place with some ferocious ground strokes. Kept his eye on the ball well in terms of the smash, sensibly putting it back to the backhand side and then coming inside the ball on the volley in order to create the side spin. Lovely little shot.
Coria missing his big weapon, the forehand, and giving Ferrero a bit of breathing space at last. A love service game, and there will be a battle for mental ascendancy here today. Tennis matches are won and lost in the mind. Just getting enough angle.
The ferocity of the forehand has certainly improved throughout the week. And where he's been missing many of those shots earlier in the year, He's been trying to open the shoulders. This week he's been making many more than he's missed. And that's certainly helped not only his ability to hurt the opponent, but also him to build a little bit of confidence up in his own ability.
Yes, good try.
Coria is so good with his court position. He's able to anticipate where the opponent is going to play the next shot so well, and he cuts down the angles. And that's why the vast majority of the time when he does move into the net, he has a relatively simple shot with which to win the point.
Always looks slightly anxious, this Jose. Now, this is exactly what he would have hoped for, a chance quickly to break back. Good attacking ploy there. You hope for a missed first serve so you can attack the second. Yeah, two goes on a good lesson there for those of you who want to know about match play. At an important moment, very important to get in a good first serve.
Makes life an awful lot easier.
What a wonderful return of serve. He thought it was going to be out. And did well, actually, with the half volley to the sideline. But the change of tactic here on the attempted drop, he's a bit far back to try it. I think Ferrero would have got that.
Good tennis. Coria certainly would be happy to move into the forecourt if he feels he's in a strong enough position in the rally. He did well here, outmanoeuvring Ferrero with some good forehands, and then as soon as he saw the Spaniard would have to play defensively, he was into the net, quick as a flash, but almost didn't do enough with that forehand volley.
Always looking for the newer ball to serve with. Well, a hotly disputed game, saving a break point with that good first serve and eventually prevailing. And wife Carla there will be well brought up against the chill of the afternoon. She'll be pretty pleased. I was saying earlier that she's a student still, but her studies are on hold while her husband is touring the world. She likes to be with him and he enjoys her presence. Lovely play court play from Coria. He keeps such a good length, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's why it's so difficult to play against him, because he has nice height over the net, generates an awful lot of topspin with both the forehand and the backhand, but does have the ability to be able to flatten the ball out, can change direction on the ball. It's still a high percentage shot because you see how high it went over the net, and just enough topspin on it to get it to dip just inside Ferrero's baseline.
See quite a lot of that mis-hitting because they have such extreme grips and hit across the flight path of the ball with topspin. Inevitably, sometimes they'll mistime it. There are the winners and unforced errors. Look, but keep the second column as low as possible, obviously, and the first as high as possible. Just a little nod there of approval of the linesman. 30 all. Took it very early.
Very aggressive hitting. Certainly making a bit of a move there in terms of trying to dominate the rally. It's been all Coria really from the back of the court until that particular rally. Ferrero there using the change of pace to good effect.
He knew where Coria was likely to go down the line, which is the percentage play, waited in that forehand corner and half-volleyed his passing shot winner.
Of the two players, I think Ferrero has the ability to generate a little bit more pace, but the backhand is certainly a little more susceptible to errors. Coria slightly stronger from the back of the court on that particular wing.
He's a bit fussy about the court surfaces. Mr. Coria, he was on the Court de France, the number 2 court here on 2 occasions. A good way of keeping warm there, that bonnet. It isn't that warm, believe me. A lot of spectators well wrapped up. That was meant to be a return drop shot, which is often a good idea, but didn't quite get hold of it.
It gives you a good indication of just how difficult it is to severely undercut the ball when you're moving under this much pressure. Timing has to be absolutely perfect.
Got the angle of the racket face wrong there. Perfectly designed that rally. He brought him in deliberately and had a choice.
He certainly uses the drop shot to good effect. Ferrero struggling to make the distance, couldn't offer a very aggressive backhand there. Coria had the cross-court pass as an option, but instead chose to go with the lob, and that's one of his best shots. Very, very difficult to read it because his disguise is so good.
Interesting that yesterday Jonas Bjorkman thought that his lob was one of the best in tennis.
You've got to be careful that you don't overdo the drop shot, but so far so good as far as Coria is concerned. Instead of the topspin lob, on this occasion it was just a little slice bunt over Ferrero's head.
What a difference a day makes against Ferrero. He played a terrible first set yesterday. Well played. Getting the half-court ball, and he'll do that all day long.
That's when Ferrero plays his best tennis, when he gets an effective first serve in, and then he's able to dominate the rally thereafter. And the vast majority of the time, he loves to do that with the forehand.
A little snarl of dismay there from Coria. Knew that that was a half chance. Because in that position, he wants to try and get a second break for insurance. Instead, it's Ferrero forging ahead in this game, 30-15. Watches his every move. Antonio Martinez does. Just a racket change, there's nothing serious there. It's the last game with this set of tennis balls, so they'll be changing those at the end of the game. And a lot of players now change the racket to coincide with the change of balls, to keep the performance level even. But that was a broken streak. A big moment, this. Yes, he's got his second break. That's exactly what he was striving for. A little clenched fist there to tell you how important he knew that last game was. 5-2 now for Coria.
Well, first point here is Guillermo Coria serving for the set at 5-2 over Juan Carlos Ferrero. 15 love. Back to Jason and John.
Him out for quite a while. Cracked a rib, which is very painful always. And you know, after that, he played 9 tournaments and only won 6 first-round matches and 1 second-round match. So, you know, his confidence was totally destroyed.
So important for these players that love playing on this particular surface to enjoy a successful couple of months between this, the first major event of the European clay court season, and of course, the end of the French Open.
Trying to finish it too quickly that time. Very tempting always to go for broke. As often as not, he'll make his winners from there. So a good first serve, uncontrolled by Ferrero, has produced 2 set points. Coria taking plenty of time here. Carla looking anxiously towards her husband as he serves her second set point. A good rally until that last loser, which has presented the set to Coria. 6 games to 2 after 30 volleys, and time and again in would come Arazi and hit the most beautiful little angled stop volleys and won a lot of points and worried Kirtan that day. Kirtan finally won, but it was a tough battle. Yes, got him again. Now, how is Ferrero going to counter this barrage of drop shots?
Well, that's the question that he has to come up with an answer for, because it's very difficult. If he gets caught standing too far up the baseline, he won't be able to time his ground strokes as well as he would like. So at the moment, Coria's certainly got the better of Ferrero in that department.
Ferrero just outlasting his man in that rally.
Interesting you mentioned Hicham Arazi, a former finalist here, of course. Played in this tournament this week, lost in the first round of the qualifying event to a certain Richard Gasquet.
Aha. One forgets that Gasquet qualified for this event, and I think that was wise not to give him a wild card, because he would feel he'd have to justify something. If he does it on his own, he'll be much better. Long? Well, we'll see. The umpire's coming down to have a look. Yes, and he points his finger. It is out.
Animé. Guillermo, be careful, huh?
And Guillermo Coria is not always popular with his fellow competitors, because he does query a lot of balls. And look, that was clearly out according to TMI. But he influences linesmen, or tries to sometimes. That's what they don't like, opponents. Well, the break points must be earned. You've got to fight like mad to hold on.
Coria.
Now, Coria with a chance here to break. So I was saying you've got to earn these chances to break, which is why he was so disappointed about the call at the far end just now, but he's got his chance. Well, quick as he is, not quick enough.
Well, I think that's a tactic that Ferrero should use more in this particular match. He's got to try and create some short angles, particularly with that forehand, making contact with the ball out in front of the body. Taking Coria out of his comfort zone, forcing him wide of the single sideline in order to open up the court for Ferrero.
He's still struggling with that confidence on rallies, making the errors just after 2 or 3 shots. The unforced now have reached 18, twice as many as his opponent. On the line, surely. One heard a different noise, and you can tell the solid click that it makes when it hits the line, and look at that. TMI confirming, right on. Nice work. Opportunism.
And he was fortunate, really, because Coria should have done an awful lot better with the backhand volley. The Argentine had been a little fortunate that Ferrero's shot had clipped the top of the net, gave him a little more time. Didn't do enough with the initial backhand approach, and then got in a real mess when he didn't put the backhand volley away.
Well played, Ferrero, clinging on, saving the 2 break points. A game he really had to win.
So Ferrero holds to start the second set. Good hold, too, because he was down break points. Match day 32 of Spanish football continues Sunday with Levante.
Yes, that is absolutely right. And I think there are sort of steps of confidence that you achieve. And against Coria, it's a step change. You know, he hasn't played an opponent of this ability this week. And I don't think Safin on a clay court really is that good. And remember, at this time last year, this fellow was in the middle of a streak of clay court wins that eventually would end on 31. I mean, he was invincible at that stage. I think it was in Hamburg, wasn't it, that it ended. Federer beat him there, but he was supremely confident at this stage last year, and Ferrero was the opposite. It takes a long time to get it back. Now, here's a better situation. About 40 and 3 break points. Pushed it well. Well, there is a major blow that Ferrero has struck there. And he knows it, Coria.
Well, how quickly things can change. Coria had a couple of break points of his own in Ferrero's opening service game in this set. Sitting pretty, having wrapped up the opening set relatively comfortably. And suddenly finds himself in a dogfight. Ferrero serving with a 2-love advantage.
And he's never beaten him on clay. And that will be in the back of his mind, whether he likes it or not. There's Patricia, the girlfriend of Juan Carlos.
The unforced errors coming thick and fast now as far as Coria is concerned. Something that he's got to try and put a stop to if he's going to remain competitive in this second set. 5 unforced errors in total now. Ferrero, those playing a very tidy set, just 3 from the Spaniard. Remember, he made 16 in the opening 8 games.
See what he was trying, but I think it was an almost on the spur of the moment idea. Didn't ever shape to hit it right, did he?
I don't remember him attempting shots like that when he was playing his best tennis on this particular surface.
No, he didn't.
That's a sign of confusion in terms of his mental state. Doesn't have the confidence in his own ability to be able to win these protracted baseline rallies. Something you simply have to have if you're going to beat the best players in the world on clay.
At least you've read that drop shot very early. And again, Coria rather a long way back to throw it.
Yeah, both players here, I think, struggling with their shot selection at the moment. They need to get back to basics. They need to keep things simple and really focus and concentrate on not making unforced errors and making the opponent work hard in order to earn points.
Back from 15-30 to 30 all. Another of those key points in a match, 30 all point. No, he won't get that one, quick as he is.
And the idea was a good one, to try and get the lob over Ferrero's backhand side. Took a shot in the book to execute that particular shot. If the lob is nice and deep and aggressive, the Spaniard doing enough in terms of the length on the approach to force Coria to hit the lob short. And thereafter, Ferrero was always going to be in control of the rally.
Well played, Ferrero. He's got now a lovely little run going, and he's changed the momentum of the match entirely. What a difference. A break easily, and he's such an experienced coach that I have every confidence in. He's certainly that. Well, he certainly lost his way, and I think Mr. Perlas will be saying something about this at the conclusion of the match when they have their debriefing conference. All players do that with their coaches. Lost his serve to love there, and Ferrero now with the momentum running strongly his way. 4-love. What about Coria's changing of coaches? Remember Fabian Blenghino?
Well, he was doing exceptionally well with Coria and suddenly got sacked after Coria failed to win the French Open last year. And of course, I was surprised that he didn't continue to work with Alberto Mancini, because they enjoyed an awful lot of success, and very strange that they parted company in the way that they did.
But of course it may have had something to do with money.
More often than not, that's the case with the players and the coaches these days. I don't think there's that much job security in working with Guillermo Coria.
It's a bit like being a football manager. Unless you're winning everything, out you go. And even when you are winning everything, if you're not getting your own way, you throw the toys out of the pram and say, I'm off. I'm thinking of Mr. Marino. Oh. Well, was that a late call? I think they're probably going to play a let, are they? I think Ferrero sportingly said, no, that wasn't long. That was nice to see. Still 3 break points, though. Well, how extraordinary. You don't often see that. But 2 men losing their serves without winning a single point. 2 games in a row. How extraordinary. 4-1.
Carlos Ferrero has won 3 Tennis Masters Series events on clay, winning Rome, this one twice. And Coria winning Hamburg and here.
Coria struggling for points on his serve here. Lovely. The backhand down the line. That's the shot that really sorts out the men from the boys. The backhand down the line. Remember Kearton?
No doubt about that. It's such an excellent shot to have in your possession, because whilst the opponent is expecting you to go cross-court with a rallying stroke, you can take him by surprise. It is risky, high part of the net, short part of the court, but if you can execute it well, it's a deadly weapon.
Won 7 points in a row here. Yes, too easy. Well played. What an extraordinary match of swaying fortunes this is. He's won the last 8 points, having lost his own serve to love. No knowing what's going to happen next.
There are certain times when you get to a certain stage in a set where you feel, okay, I've got nothing to lose now, I'm 4-love down, double break. You just open my shoulders, relax, and then, of course, you start to play a little bit better, which is quite ironic, having dug yourself a hole.
4-2. Well, every now and again you get a bad bounce on these clay courts because the players' passage across the court, sliding into their shots, just makes little mounds of clay surface, and if the ball hits a little pile of clay, it'll shoot or pop. Well, I think he might ask for that to be looked at.
You gave the ball back, Guillermo,
And Guillermo has conceded the fact that it had hit the line. I thought it did. And I think, look, TMI will show us just where it did land. Yes, it did hit the line. And again, very sporting this time of Coria, realising that he couldn't take the point. So we'll play a let. 15 off. As he was a dead duck once the ball had hit the net and stood up.
Well, Coria had so much time, really, to get his feet in the right position. And that's so important because the power and spin that the players generate is with the upper body. And it's so important to try and generate as much angular momentum as possible.
It's the first time a server has lost a point for 3 games. Well, this is the 4th game. Very tempting always, that one, when you're just outside that sideline to have a go down the line, but you've got to get the flight absolutely right. Some really smart headgear about today. Yes, good play. Being aggressive. There's Patricia. It was a bit low for that aggression. Got to get the spin absolutely right, which he tried to do. But I think Antonio Martinez a little bit distressed there.
Well, I think it's going to be obvious where Ferrero likes to serve on break point. So if I was Coria, I'd certainly be looking for the serve to the backhand, be it the first or the second serve.
And another forehand down that tempting line, flies wide, and his advantage has gone. Still ahead, of course, by the odd game, but no longer with the service break. It's 4-3 to Ferrero. Halfway up, well, that's the shoulder that was operated on last August in Barcelona. He's not hitting it as hard as he used to in the period of the game when he was so dominant in 2004. And there's always the fear that the shoulder is going to let you down again. I think you don't see players sort of really unloading on their serves after shoulder operations. Certainly it's been true of Ivan Isavic. Well, they love to see a volley, don't they?
And it was executed to perfection. It was a nice combination too. Because Ferrero initially brought Coria into the net. The Argentine just bunting the ball up the line, didn't do enough with it really. And despite chasing that ball down, Ferrero had taken up an excellent position at the net. Good anticipation. It's always advisable to try and follow the line of the ball. So Ferrero there just slightly to the right of the centre service line in a good position to cover that particular shot.
Another key moment here. He'll be annoyed with himself. He got there in time. Twice now. Remember that Drop shot that he failed to make a return drop shot on early in the match.
He didn't really have many options here because the drop shot was of such a good quality from Coria. Plus, he'd taken up an excellent position in the court. So Ferrero there, even if that ball had gone over, it wasn't in a particularly good position because Coria was standing on and around the service line and he would have made the distance very comfortably.
Quite the same security as during that run of wins last year. Stretched it to 31 continuous winning matches on clay. Now you see, missed that. He wouldn't have missed that last year in the same position.
Able to generate enough racket head speed, didn't make thin enough contact with the ball in order to get the necessary spin, which would have controlled the ball a little better.
Well, now where's he going to serve this time? To the backhand? Good forcing drive, making Ferrero rush. That was good play. They're so similar in style that it's always bound to be a battle of wills in the end.
Check it out.
Well, Coria has clawed his way back here, thanks partly to some tightening in the racket arm of Ferrero, whose unforced error count now, alarmingly, has reached 29. And that really is the trouble for him.
It's been a very, very strange match. Neither player, I think, will be particularly pleased with the way they've been able to strike the ball. Too many unforced errors on both sides, really. 29 unforced errors from Ferrero, as you mentioned, 21 from Coria. 12 in this particular set, many of those coming in the first 4 games, of course. And Ferrero must be a little distraught, really, with his inability to make the most of that advantage he built up early in this second set.
Got the pressure now in the Ferrero camp. They've changed the tennis balls and Coria's changed his racket. You can see he pulled that out wide, swung it a fraction early. Either that or you've got to turn a bit more. A bit square on to the court, to the baseline. It's a nasty moment. He lost the last 4 games and now love 30. That's a horrible situation. Yes, the confidence has just disappeared entirely. And he can hardly believe what he's seeing. Antonio. It's not over yet, but one feels that the insecurity in Ferrero that has been apparent ever since that accident last year is still with him. What a relief for Ferrero there.
Of course, one of the difficulties is if you try and generate a short angle, especially with the forehand cross court, if it's not good enough, the opponent can use that angle and hurt you with it.
Heart and mouth here. 2 saved, 1 to go. Well, very courageous. In view of the fact that he'd missed 3 backhands in this game, it's just as well that was a forehand.
Some good footwork, sensible shot selection, trying to use his strength as opposed to his weakness. The serve took Coria out of court, and of course that's what opened up the opportunity for Ferrero to hit the forehand winner. Not aggressive enough on the return of serve, the Argentine, on that occasion.
Oh, lovely tennis from Ferrero now. Took a lot of guts.
It's amazing, really. 3 backhand unforced errors to dig himself a hole at love 40, and then some quite superb tennis to get himself out of a hole. Lovely execution of a relatively difficult shot just behind the baseline.
And the first time that a drop shot has brought a point for Ferrero. Oh, well played, Ferrero. And all he needed to do was drop it over the net, and he knows that he would have won the point. And a brilliant recovery from... And a certain anxiety has returned to Coria's game. Would it surprise me if this did go to a final set?
It's the first time that Coria has been able to win a point in this set, amazingly, when he's been down to his weaker delivery.
Well, there's a certain tension in the air, the crowd expectant here. Yes, got him. If you go cross-court, you take the risk.
And there's no doubt about the fact that Coria, in his mind, didn't want to approach to the Ferrero forehand, so instead did come in cross-court, and of course that left the court open for Ferrero to change direction on the ball, and he did that quite superbly. It's not an easy shot. Nice open stance with the feet, and just a little rotation with the upper body. Coria knows.
He knows, doesn't he? Shouldn't have done it. Oh, he was so lucky there. A total mishit turns into a winner.
And it went in the perfect position, really, as far as Coria is concerned. It was short. It was to Ferrero's backhand, and the Spaniard there really struggling to get the ball up and over the high part of the net.
Well, that was, to him, the most important point of the match. Would have given him a set point. Little fault call. Well, no. Yeah. I think Ferrero is saying, no, it was good. Well, it's been very sportingly played, this. Well, I don't need to say any more. So here we are at 5-all. Coria finding a third ace of the match for that game, that point rather, that levelled for 5-all. And it's an area of his game which hasn't quite come back to its former power, the serve, because of the shoulder.
Some excellent footwork there as far as the Argentine's concerned. Good anticipation too. He knew that the Ferrero forehand was going to drop short. He was already moving up the court. Took it just before it got to shoulder height and played the ball into the space. Quite superb.
The confidence has evaporated again, and the expression there says it all, doesn't it? Dejection. Yes, the depth beat him, couldn't control it. And Coria ahead once more with a break. But so
15-0.
Well, it looks very much as if Coria now is going to have the opportunity to do what Ferrero did, winning back-to-back titles here, having a chance to do that at 2 more points. Well, that was such a bad luck for Ferrero, breaking a string at the start of that rally. Well, 3 match points have arrived for Coria. I don't see now Ferrero fighting his way back from this. Just over an hour and a half they've been playing. No, it's all over.
Guillermo Coria down 4-love in the second set. Comes back to win it in straight sets. So Coria avenges the loss in the final here from 2 years ago, and he himself moves on to the final with a 6-2, 7-5 victory. And he will await the winner of Rafael Nadal and Richard Gasquet.